Going to get started with some introductions. I'm Amanda Cassett, aka Amanda.eth, founder and CEO of Serotonin. We bring the world's breakthrough technologies to market.
And I'm Luca Netz. I'm the CEO of Pudgy Penguins.
Hey everyone, my name is Alex. You might know me as Zagabond. I'm the CEO and founder of Azuki.
Hey, I'm Josh, and co-founder and COO of Magic Eden.
So just to get started, we've had digital culture since the dawn of the internet. In 2021, 2022, NFTs really came to dominate web culture. Where are we now? What's the cutting edge of digital culture? What's coming next? Where can we see it?
It's never been better, I think. And so you remove the price aspect from it, but I say this all the time, and I just gave him his flowers, but the top NFT projects have never been breaking boundaries and pushing barriers the way that they have over the last 6 to 12 months. So I think at its core, these are digital collectibles. These are the next iterations of IP businesses. And I think you're really starting to see that come into fruition here, especially over the last 12 months. So I think we're at the really beginning stages of something that I think is ultimately going to be the future of collecting, the future of collectibles, and ultimately the future of how people identify on the internet. So I think we're still in the first inning, and as the last 12 months goes, and just recently Z announced the purchase of anime.com and how they're going to tie that into the entire ecosystem. I think things are about to get really exciting here pretty soon, and remove price from the equation and narratives and all that. It's the next generation of something special.
Z, what do you think is happening on the edge of digital culture?
Yeah, I think to me, Web3 culture is all about participation, and you see a lot of that. I mean, at this conference, everyone's here, building the network and contributing and trying to build something together, and that is also, I think, always at the forefront of Web3 culture to me. And what's happening now, I think, is people's identities and their contributions and the attribution of what they contribute is starting to become more of a common theme. How can you actually identify who someone is online, what actions they've taken, what they've done to actually contribute to a brand? That's something that we're actively trying to figure out with Azuki. Is we really came up with this concept of how can we co-create this IP together. That was the original vision for Azuki. And then we just had an event last night, and every merch thing that we sold, everything we displayed is created by the community, right? So it's really about co-creation, and now how do we add attribution in the picture so that people can get rewarded for the things that they put in? And I think that's the next evolution of Web3 culture to me, and something that I'm really excited about. All these NFT projects now, we're kind of leading the charge there. Everyone's finding their own lanes. Doodles is doing a great job in music and entertainment. We're doing that for anime. Pudgies, you guys are doing that across the board on social media, on toys, and now with abstract. So a lot of amazing things going on. Magic Eden, you guys are cross-chain as well. So that's kind of how I see Web3 culture developing.
Cutting edge of digital culture.
All right, I'll take my stab. These guys already said all the good stuff. But I would say, just to frame it a little bit, in the last cycle with NFTs, you saw a lot of just experimentation about, like, every creator was just coming out, kind of like just messing about, right? Figuring out what works. To some degree, in the last 2-3 years, you've seen the cream basically rise to the top, which is why these guys are still here, right? These guys are grinding, they're doing amazing stuff. And we were just talking before that one of the big things that's happened over the last couple of years, and I think you really need this, is you start to have the really hardcore believers really get galvanized, right? And that forms the core of the communities that really, really then build some amazing things over the coming years. And for us, like how we think about it, because we are very different to these guys. These guys are the creators, right? They are building the IP. They are owning that kind of consumer brand. On our side, we are building the platform that enables all of these different assets and all of this content that could live. And that's why we have a lot of conviction about being the home of Web3, being the home of buying, selling, minting, trading, any kind of activity or verb that you want to have, and then doing that on as many chains as possible, because people are going to experiment with different content on all of these different chains. So how we feel about it is that, yeah, I agree with Luca. It's like, it may not look the same, but it's as rich as ever. And I think what you're seeing now is just the cream is rising to the top.
So what's on the cutting edge is it's never been better. The cream's rising to the top. We're going multi-chain. We're focusing not just on co-creation, but also on attribution. These all sound very exciting, but let's just talk about hard things and address them straight on. We saw a 97% drop of NFT trading volumes since the 2021 peak by September 2022. By 2023, the market size was a third of what it previously was. And then here we are in 2024, and NFT sales hit a low this past month in August of 374 million, which is the lowest volume all year. What does that say about the future of NFTs, and how are you handling it? Maybe let's start with Luca and diversifying into toys.
It's crypto. I mean, I'd be remiss if anybody here was building in crypto and wasn't ready for a 95% drawdown. This is the industry that we're in. They said this about altcoins. They said this about Ethereum. They said this about Bitcoin. That's just the nature of it. I mean, fundamentally, this stuff is so obvious. I mean, there's one statistic that I think just matters above all else. And just assume that NFTs become nothing more than what they are today. They today have disrupted the collectible business. The collectible business is a $500 billion market cap business. Today, 99% of collectibles are physical, yet 1% is digital. Yet digital collectibles have a slew of pros that physical collectibles do not. There's no spoofing issues. There's no inauthenticity issues. There's no friction when buying or selling. There's no insurance. There's no storage issues. In principle, physical collectibles, I think, have that physical, attachment and pro, but I think that's a little bit overrated. But granted, I think we could all agree, whether you're a physical or digital maxi, the discrepancy between that is not 99 to 1. Is it 80 to 20, 70 to 30, 50 to 50? That's up for debate, but I think the consensus is that gap is going to close. And like you said, the market caps here are so low that when you take 10, 20, 30, 50 billion dollars and you again, the cream rising to the top, I think there's going to be a couple projects that are really going to capture that discrepancy. And so I think from our perspective, the opportunity is huge. The fluctuations and the volatility of crypto is not something that worries me personally. It's been 2.5 years since these things really started going on a drawdown, and crypto usually happens and goes in 3.5 and 4 year cycles. I think fundamentally, you see this whole craze with meme coins. It just takes one thing to kind of kick this thing back up. One really hyped mint, one really hyped run. I mean, back earlier in the year, Pudgy Penguins had a monster run. The whole market kind of came, and then the entire crypto market just kind of fell off, and then NFTs cooled off with it. So I think we can see that these things still have momentum. They still have legs. There's nothing more fun in crypto, in my opinion, than NFTs that can be open for agreements or disagreements. But I would assume most people here have minted. They understand the joy of ripping something or getting a rare. And I think when you also look at the fair distribution that comes with NFTs, I think it's just an unparalleled mechanism. So, my bull case here is there's been a huge unlock in sophisticated tooling in the NFT market that we didn't see in the last cycle. Businesses have never been building better products and doing more important and breakthrough things, not just only for NFTs, but I think for crypto in general. I mean, look at what I think we've done for crypto, from Walmart and Target, and legitimizing the space to non-crypto users, bringing the family together around a brand that I think no other brand in crypto could have really done. What these guys are doing for anime and, kind of establishing a foothold in the industry. Doodles is, taking over, some of the most important, film and music spots in the world. I think we're pioneering and leading the charge in what I think consumer crypto is really supposed to be about. And I think the believers and the people that are here today are really going to reap the rewards. So when that speculative fervor comes back, it's not if, it's when. It's going to get really exciting. So I think we're still in the first innings here. Digital collectibles are here to stay. It's naturally obvious. It's instinctually obvious, and I hope it is for everybody in the room. So I think that's my take.
Super interesting to see this market in context of the total digital collectibles market rather than the NFTs market. And then also, even if volumes are down, that maybe certain projects are more dominant and that those are accelerating. Super interesting. Z, so wanted to get your take on this. Volumes are down, but you're expanding into anime and games. What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I share the same sentiment as Luca. And I think if you only look at the transaction volume, I think you're missing a big piece of what NFTs enable. And I think, there's a lot of people that got It's the same with any speculative asset, right? When price goes down, people lose money, they get burned by it, they leave the space. But I think it's been, a couple years since 2021, and then I think a lot of holders are starting to come back because they're starting to realize that there's really no other community like an NFT community. And this time around, when they're going to come back, what they're going to realize is, wait, some of my favorite brands and communities are a lot more developed now and getting mainstream adoption, whether it's Walmart or getting the entertainment and media out there and breaking into Web2. And for us, we're making authentic Japanese anime. And we released the first episode of our anthology series, and that's gotten traction. If you read the comments, people are like, "Man, I love this IP. How can I see more?" They don't have any idea that it's NFTs, and that's what we need, right? Something that it's not good in Web3 or it's good for an NFT project. It needs to be good, period. And that's what we need, and that's what projects are starting to develop and get out there. And so when these holders are coming back this time around, they're, I think, going to be very pleasantly surprised to be like, "Wow, there's quite nothing like it," and I'm very excited to be back, and I'm very bullish about the space and the communities that I'm a part of. And for Azuki, the first couple years has been around building this premium brand around anime, right? So building Azuki into a nice brand, curating a nice community of really talented creatives to co-create with us. And now I think what NFTs enable is you have this community. How can you mobilize and inspire this community to do something much greater? And so for us, it's this vision of what we call Anime 2.0, where how can we give more ownership to the fans and creators that make up this passionate global anime community? And how can we create something that really incentivizes the whole community of creatives to contribute to this ecosystem? And that's what the Azuki community now, the NFT holders, can be the stewards of. Right, to be early in this new movement, to get more creators on board, and I think that's what NFTs and Web3 can really enable, and that's this next evolution of what we're doing, and that's not measured by purely transaction volume, right? Because there's always a new meta. There's meme coins obviously really took over the narrative in terms of speculative price action, and so there's no way NFTs can compete with that in this phase, but. Of course, we do what we think is best using NFTs as a technology, and I think it enables something much more, and I think we're all doing that today.
So it's really interesting how Luca's gotten into this larger category of collectibles and how Z, you've gotten into this larger category of anime. And both of those are these growing, exciting categories that aren't dependent on today's NFT market volumes. But I wanted to lay out that kind of NFT market bear case, actually, to talk about Magic Eden, because you're such a counterexample to that bear case. You just overtook Blur. You raised 130 million at a 1.6 billion valuation, seeing volumes really increasing. How are you pulling that off?
Yeah, it's fun. I'll address the 97% drawdown thing first, because I think it's funny because I feel nothing at this point. I think to be building in this space, you just kind of got to live with that. And I think it's really good. We are like a bit of a counterexample in the NFT market, or just in crypto in general, because I think about our business now. It's like it's much more diversified as a business. And to just illustrate the point a little bit, we started in 2021, right, when everything was basically going crazy, going bananas, and our year, we're going to have a better year this year in terms of users, revenue, every metric that you can name as a business, way better than 2021. And what's the reason for that? Even if NFTs seem down, is that I'd encourage you to basically just scratch underneath the surface a little bit. And you wouldn't see all the stuff that these guys are working on as an example if you're just looking at the price or the volume that's being traded. You just wouldn't see it. You also would not see that under the hood, how much NFT content has actually been created on a bunch of different places. No longer is it just Ethereum, right? The Ethereum market is, I don't know the exact number, probably down 90+%, right, from a pure volume perspective. But if you look at Magic Eden and where all the users are actually trading, all the users are actually consuming content, minting, it's on places like they're minting on Base. They're buying and selling ordinals on Bitcoin. They're buying and selling gaming assets on Polygon and Solana, right? And then there's also the Ethereum market too. So the market is just a lot bigger and it's a lot wider than it was a few years ago. And why is that important? It's because there's to basically illustrate how early we are from like an entire market and industry. It's like I agree with what Luca was saying. It's the first inning, but just imagine, because NFTs enable a couple of really cool things if you strip everything else away. It's any asset can be basically digital and have property rights. Any asset is immediately just international. Any asset is immediately tradable, sendable, you name it, programmable, right? And if you just apply that to basically any physical thing in the world, you got to believe that that thing is going to be absolutely massive. And we are just right at the beginning of that. So I don't have like a strong point of view about, oh, is it going to be this type of asset, that type of asset? It almost doesn't matter. We should just be wherever the content and wherever the users are going to go. And we are not very opinionated about that. And that's why I think Magic Eden has become a little bit of this counterexample where, as even though the narrative and the market has seemed a little bit more quiet than it was in 2021, like our business is actually doing a lot better, like many orders of magnitude better than it was in 2021.
Hold up.
Yeah.
You guys did a recent round?
This was the last round that we did.
I was gonna say NFTs are down 95% in volume. You got to spare a dollar.
That's super interesting. We started talking about IP, and we're in Web3, so we're talking about infrastructure. And it's really interesting that your strategy for growing volumes on Magic Eden has been so infra-focused, getting into the Solana ecosystem, getting into the Ordinals ecosystem. Maybe you can comment directly just on the role that infra has had on Magic Eden's growth, and then I want to ask you two about infra as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, we started off as a Solana marketplace, and those of you who knew Magic Eden in 2021, that's what you would have known us for. And we had this thesis that over the long run, right, let's call it 10 years, 10 plus years, you would basically see that many different assets would get created on many different places. So it didn't, as a platform and as a company, we were not going to be dogmatic about where those assets would be created, right? So we said to ourselves very early on, we should just be all over. Like imagine effectively as exchanges support, token trading and things like that, they're never going to support the long tail of all of the asset creation. And that's where we should support that. We should basically be the on-chain version of that, right? Where the long tail goes, like we should be there. So we started expanding into different ecosystems very early in 2022. So we did EVM, ETH, Polygon, now we're on Base. We did Bitcoin, one of the first on Bitcoin. That became a very big market. Did about $1 billion in volume in just May, like just a few months ago, right? Ordinals and runes. So we have taken this very cross-chain, multi-chain lens. The second piece of the infrastructure that I'll mention that people may not necessarily know about for Magic Eden, because people know us as just purely an NFT marketplace, is as this experience has been built out, users then have to figure out how do they get on all these different chains, right? And it's like a very complicated problem with all these different wallets that are out there. And we ended up building also a cross-chain wallet to accompany the marketplace experience. So if a user is a Solana user and they want to go buy an Azuki, how do they go do that? Instead of having to download multiple wallets, like transfer money from or ETH from Coinbase, they can go to Magic Eden Wallet, swap Sol to ETH, and then join the Azuki community, right? Just cutting out all those steps and making that very seamless has been a big area of investment for us. So that's kind of the big focus. We're going to continue to build that out. We have many aspirations around supporting probably 5 to 10 more chains later this year. And then over the 5 to 10 year time horizon, I think that's going to get a lot bigger with basically all of the L2s that are coming out online now.
Super interesting building infra to be able to tap into the demand from all those different ecosystems and then getting into the account abstraction, wallet abstraction side to build out the UX. Z, I wanted to ask you, you guys are on Ethereum, on Arbitrum as an L2. Do you have any plans to build infra yourselves? Do you want to go multi-chain?
Yeah, so the way I think about infra is, I think back to 2017 is when I joined the space. I worked for a project called 0x, which is a decentralized exchange protocol. It's actually when I met Joshin. Yeah, he was at DYDX, and we were neighbors in San Francisco. And we started at 0x by being a protocol, right? Sitting at that infra layer, supporting other DEXs to build on top of us. We use this system where we can support what we call relayers, teams to build exchanges on top of 0x. And what we found is that it's very difficult to find teams to build the exact type of apps that you want, that utilize the infra in the right way, because there's a lot of things to consider with DEXs in this case, with liquidity and getting market makers, et cetera. And it got to the point where we were still making the core protocol, but we had to just commit to building our own app on top of it as well. And so that became matcha.xyz, which is a DEX aggregator that a lot of people, you guys might have used it today. And so what I learned from that is the infra is important to support the type of applications that you want to build. And for us now at Azuki, years later, the infra that Arbitrum provides as an L2 is, they have a whole product suite, and we're utilizing their product called Orbit to spin up our own L3 chain, and it's called Anime Chain. And for us, Anime Chain, cool. Yeah. So you can see that everything we do is kind of synergistic and just the anime vertical. Azuki obviously is an anime IP, right? So we've been doing that, and what we're good at is building something that resonates with the end user that loves the IP. And Arbitrum and all this infra that exists now makes it really easy for us to spin up our own chain, being Anime Chain. And so what's missing now is how can we create a flagship platform on Anime Chain to actually onboard and expand the anime industry and take them on chain. And we just announced this past week that we're building anime.com, which is going to be a platform for anime fans. They won't even know that it's Web3 to start. And so you can go on there and sign up for the waitlist today with just an email. 3 clicks, you register, you can get a pack of stickers to use when the platform goes live. And those stickers are actually NFTs on Anime Chain. And each user with an email gets a wallet on Anime Chain as well through account abstraction. And so they don't even need a wallet. They don't have to pay gas. The user doesn't even know that it's blockchain. And that's to us what consumer crypto is, really abstracting that crypto stuff away. And so for us, we put anime.com first because that's what the end user uses first, and Anime Chain is the layer that sits under that. And that you don't have to focus on that because we're taking care of that in the back end, and I think that's how real consumer apps should be. And I think that's the next evolution of what consumer crypto would be.
Super exciting. When Anime Coin sounds very cool. So Luca, you announced an 11 million raise led by Founders Fund to build, among other things, an L2 from your parent company, Igloo.
Yep.
Maybe tell us some more about your infrastructure plans and what role infra plays for Pudgies.
Yeah, I think we see the same opportunity in L2s that we saw when we bought Pudgy Penguins. When we bought Pudgy Penguins, we just felt like we had an unorthodox approach on how to look at things, and we thought we could do things differently, and we thought we could win, in building NFTs and providing value to our community. I think the same thing when I look at L2s. I think L2s have a little bit of a broken ethos and a mindset, and I actually appreciate Z's perspective on this, but it's this general purpose approach naturally from an entrepreneurship perspective is like really contradictory or paradoxical to what it means to be a good entrepreneur. A good entrepreneur doesn't get into a business with 10 different priorities. A good entrepreneur goes into business with one priority. And general purpose blockchains, I think, fundamentally are broken in the sense that you have to optimize and try to do 10 things really well and try to build an ecosystem across many different facets. I think for us, we really want to be the consumer chain, and we want to own consumers on EVM. And naturally, I think Pudgy Penguins have been building for consumer crypto for the last 2.5 years. I think we've been the face of that. Obviously, we've experienced some serious pain points being in Walmart, being in Target. Now Pudgy toys are in about 10,000 different retailers across the country, but we're not really in the physical product business. We're really in the Trojan horse business. So for those who are not familiar, Pudgy Penguin toys actually come with a QR code. Those QR codes point you to Pudgy World. You get an email and a password, or you input an email and a password. You're given NFTs through a gasless experience, and through nothing nothing short of a $5 purchase of a toy, you're now on-chain participating and digitally collecting. And so that experience, fundamentally, we had a lot of different issues going around to a lot of different chains, just trying to optimize that experience. And ultimately, what it kind of came down to, and what we saw was like, look, nobody's focusing on consumer and consumer only, and the sacrifices that you have to make a good consumer experience are not necessarily the sacrifices that you can make when you're optimizing for DeFi or AI or data or some of these other things that these people are doing. And so the elephant in the room was like, look, we need to own this experience. Nobody's owning consumer on EVM. We want Abstract to be the consumer chain. And we raised that round. We actually bought Frame, which was an amazing chain being built for the last year by a group led by a developer named Saigar. Some of you guys may or may not be familiar. I actually worked with Z quite a bit. And so,
fun fact, he was a mutant ape at first. And we've seen his journey, and it's been awesome.
You should have told me that. I would have. It would have been a little bit different of a deal. Just kidding. But and that's what I think we want to pioneer. I think when you guys are looking at Pudgy Penguins, when you're looking at Igloo, when you're looking at Abstract, I think what we want to be is we want to pioneer consumer crypto. We want to lead that charge, and you know, I want to do it alongside people like Z and people like Magic Eden, obviously. So you know, that's our infrastructural endeavors, and hopefully you guys will see some more things here shortly.
But why build an L2? Like, what will the L2 do that's different, that's missing in the market right now?
I think it's again, it starts and stops with like a fundamental mindset. I think there's some compromises on the infra layer or on the actual chain side that I think you kind of have to position. On the other side of it, I think there's actually, I think it starts and stops with the mindset. So for example, you know, most L2s, they want to optimize for sequencer fees. So they'll basically say, everyone can come build on my chain, right? But ultimately it leads into like a really fragmented experience. And so one thing right now is like curation. Curation is not at the name of the game, or customization or personalization, or what does that actual 0 to 1 onboarding look like? So I think for us, you know, rather than trying to build an ecosystem that does a ton of different things and optimizes for a ton of different things, we're really trying to just optimize for one experience only, which is consumer. And so we're making the necessary tweaks on the chain side. We're making a huge tweak on what it looks like to build the ecosystem. So I want you guys to hold me accountable to this, but I want Abstract to be the most fun ecosystem in crypto. I want to own fun at least for the next 12 to 24 months as our primary focus. And I want to leave everything else to other people to kind of figure out. And so if you're building the next great DeFi innovation, I'll send you over to our friends at Barachain or Arbitrum. But if you're building fun and viral applications, I want Abstract to be the home of that. I want to innovate and pioneer and kind of build out some of the tooling in terms of what it looks like to really take account abstraction to the next level. I think 0 to 1 onboarding is broken today, so a huge focus for us on the engineering side is actually making the best 0 to 1 onboarding experience. We think we're going to do that through Abstract Global Wallet, which we announced a couple weeks ago. So I actually think it's less of a, hey, we're going to do this one thing differently. I think it's more of an ethos and a mindset, right? Which is like, hey, we want to do consumer better than everybody else. And if you want to go build, you know, blockchains can power many different things. But you guys can, you know, builders that want to do that can go do that in other ecosystems. And I think just focusing on consumer and consumer only is ultimately going to lead to a lot of interesting developments.
Super cool. I mean, inside our ecosystem, we've been talking so much about consumer crypto and about building the infra necessary to enable it, wallet abstraction, account abstraction, easy onboarding. But this consumer crypto narrative hasn't been the major narrative this cycle. It's really been institutional adoption, ETFs, the enterprises finally getting in, putting crypto on the balance sheet. Do you guys see any symbiosis between the increasing institutional adoption and what happens in Web3 culture? And I ask this because in previous market cycles, with the emphasis on NFTs, we've seen so many newcomers to crypto start with true sovereign wallets and root ownership of their assets. But now we're seeing a lot of these volumes going into ETFs, where they're not, you know, owned directly by users, and it's not necessarily a portal to get into the cultural side. Do these phenomena go together, or are they separate?
I fundamentally think they're separate. So I actually wrote a whole article about this. I encourage you guys to read it because I spent more time than I probably should have on it. But I actually wrote about what is consumer crypto and ultimately what does that mean. I actually think consumer crypto is the final frontier. And I think, like you said, you know, we've broken through to the institutions in a way that I think we all hoped and dreamed, you know, 5 years ago. that we would get in terms of the ETFs. And so now that the ETFs are out there, we know that the institutions are playing. They've always been playing, and they've always been a key factor in the growth of prices within this industry. But consumers and ultimately breaking through to consumers is the place that we have to go if we want crypto to be what we want it to be. Consumer adoption is going to be the ceiling that I think creates a potential for a $100 trillion TAM. But I think if you go on its current trajectory, maybe crypto can have a $10 trillion market cap or a $15 trillion market cap. But I think if you want it to be the next, or the rails to the next versions of the internet economies, you have to break through into consumer, and you have to do it fast. The elephant in the room, which I think most people don't really think about, is today adoption is driven by price going up or price going down. The problem is crypto is an alpha-driven industry, and most people who come into crypto for that speculative reason to make money end up losing. So just use an anchor of 1 million people. If 1 million people come into crypto, 950,000 of those people are losing money. Another 50,000 are maybe making money, or they see the opportunity and they stay. But that stairway to success is ultimately handicapped by this driver that is basically price. And I got into crypto to make money. Most people got into crypto to make money. But I think we need to lean into other habitual habits that I think have higher upside. I think fun has higher upside. I think I've stayed into crypto and I'm here today because I have fun within this industry. I think most people would probably feel the same. I think digital ownership, being censorship resistant, having the ability to have this borderless liquidity pool, which I think adds just so much opportunity. I mean, these are the things that we really need to lean into. And ultimately, that's going to be driven by consumer adoption and how consumer crypto is being driven forward. So to answer your question seamlessly, I think on one side, institutions are here. They've broken through in the most meaningful way. Capital will continue to compound, but they're not going to get really, really excited. And there's a lot of sideline capital, probably a majority of sideline capitals, waiting for something really tangible to break through. That happened in 2020 with DeFi. That happened also in 2021 with NFTs. I think institutions really saw the opportunity there, but now they need to see the next iteration of that. And so that's why I'm just a huge believer. Like, consumer crypto has to be the place that we have to go. And if we just continue on this habitual cycle of every million people, 950,000 of them getting burned and being cynics around the industry, we're never really going to get to where we want to be. And narrative drives everything. Narrative drives the world. That's one thing I learned about while working in this business. And right now, the narrative outside of the crypto native and outside of the people that support the industry is not as good as I think people think. And I think that's the handicap that we have today.
Yeah, I have one take on this, which is, I think that it's as simple as this. The institutional stuff, like the ETFs and everything, they drive more credibility and legitimacy to the industry as a whole, which doesn't directly correlate necessarily with like more retail coming to use our stuff like immediately. But that legitimacy is very, very necessary, because over time, it acts as a bit of a Trojan horse. So like people, they get the ETH ETF or maybe the Solana ETF that's maybe coming, or like whatever ETF, and then they start to see like, what are the narratives, what are the pervasive narratives that are driving that ETF? And they start to look a little bit deeper, and then they start to discover all the stuff that we are building, right? So I think this effect, it takes a long time. Like, people tend to underestimate these time horizons. But when it happens, it'll happen very suddenly. And I have very, very high conviction around that. And then the last piece I'll say is that around this price point that Luca was making, it's true. Like, a new user today does not want to come and buy a $30,000 item. That's just not going to happen, realistically. And that's why I think one of the most interesting pieces of activity that we see on our platform, Magic Eden, over the last 6 months has been, we do these mints, and these mints, they're usually like $1, or maybe they're free, right? They're usually very, very cheap. And they are there's hundreds of thousands of people that are minting these items. So we did one like for the Olympics to commemorate the Olympics. We did a bunch of other ones that were just around like smaller crypto native communities, and they did hundreds of thousands of mints. And the reason behind that is because people are still interested in collecting, and they're interested in basically joining different communities, but the way they do it and the entry point has to be a lot more, the barrier has to be lower, right? So it's kind of like infra is one piece, price point is one piece, legitimacy is another piece. So this like digital communities, native communities versus institutions, it's like both have to happen, but over this time horizon, it's gonna definitely help. Yeah.
I think it's a great point about how they're different audiences, but they have some symbiosis from the legitimacy. On the consumer side, normal consumers don't buy a can of Coca-Cola and then expect to make money on it. They expect to consume it. And so, point well taken about price. Z, what do you think? Is there some kind of synergy between the institutional and consumer side this cycle?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is I think now I don't think there's one major narrative that's driving this industry. I think institution is one of them, but there's also RWAs, there's meme coins, there's IP, and there's so many things. And I think that just shows that the industry is maturing, and we have to advance across all these areas in order to show more legitimacy and show what's possible with what it is that we're building. I think back to like 2018 was around when security tokens were a thing, right? And people were saying, oh, the institutions are going to come, they're going to tokenize security, and that's going to be what drives the majority of token trading volume on exchanges. And then we realized, actually, that was kind of early for that, and it kind of died down. And then 2019, 2020, DeFi Summer came around, which is very, I think, authentic to Web3 culture because it enabled a lot of new use cases on crypto rails that wasn't possible before. And so I think we'll see that ebb and flow of like, we're going to see more institutions come in, or oh, there's some really organic things happening that's really exciting. But ultimately, what drives this space is narrative, and you talked about this a lot. And it's up to us to drive that narrative, right? We can't wait to be like, what's the next narrative going to be? Like, no, what we're building on the consumer side is what's going to bring a lot of people fun experiences, and that's going to onboard the next wave, in my opinion. So I totally agree with you on that, Luca. And so let's drive home this narrative, right? Let's make it happen. And then institutions, they'll do their thing. I hope there's a Solana ETF and all these things. So we all gotta kind of hit it from all angles. That's my perspective.
I love it. To wrap it all up, as we build this narrative and get our community involved, let's just go super lightning. What would you like people in the audience today to do? What action can they take to start getting involved in your community?
I'll go. Yeah, I'll just use it as an opportunity to shill Magic Eden a little bit. We're all gonna do it, right? No, I'll be quick. So download Magic Eden wallet, cross-chain wallet, go mint an NFT. You'll find something more delightful than you probably might think is there. And I'm extremely, extremely convicted about the long-term future of NFTs and just digital ownership in universal. Digital ownership is going to be universal, and yeah, feeling as bullish as ever.
Yeah, so I was just in Japan, and we're meeting with some of our Japanese IP partners, and there's these massive companies like Toho and Toei. They made some amazing animes that you might have watched, like Dragon Ball, Jujutsu Kaisen. And what's amazing is they're starting Web3 IP, right, following a very similar playbook to what Azuki did years ago, and they see the potential of it. Right? And so I think if you want to join the Azuki community and be at the forefront of what the next generation of anime IPs can look like, I think it's a great opportunity to do that now. And if you just want to check out what we're building on the consumer side, you check out anime.com. You can sign up for the wait list and kind of go through that experience and be one of the earliest folks to check out anime.com once it's live.
And I think from my side, go to your local Walmart or Target or we're in a lot of stores around the world. Maybe get a Pudgy Penguin toy, give it to a friend or a family member, or collect maybe some of our NFTs. And if you're interested to see us run back another success story, maybe give Abstract Chain a follow on Twitter. But thank you guys for your time, and hope to see you guys around.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks to our panelists.
Thank you.